Story number 1. The Silent Depths. In the quiet town of Blackwood, nestled between sprawling forests and a desolate lake, rumors of the Silent Depths had long circulated. The lake was infamous for its eerie silence. No bird sang nearby, and no one dared to fish there. Samantha, a journalist from the city, arrived in Blackwood on assignment. She was skeptical of the superstitions, determined to write a piece debunking the myths surrounding the lake. Her contact, a local historian named Henry, warned her not to go near the water. "People disappear there," he whispered. Ignoring his warning, Samantha decided to visit the lake that night. Equipped with a flashlight and a recorder, she ventured into the forest. As she reached the water's edge, the unnatural silence enveloped her. There was no wind, no rustling of leaves, only an oppressive stillness. Then, she noticed footprints leading into the water, but none coming out. Samantha's recorder captured strange noises, a faint humming, almost like whispers beneath the surface. As she leaned closer, something brushed against her leg in the shallow water. Startled, she shone her flashlight, revealing nothing but murky ripples. The next morning, she returned to town, shaken but intrigued. Henry revealed that the lake had a dark history. Decades ago, a group of miners drowned there during a storm, and their bodies were never recovered. Soon after, locals began reporting strange occurrences, unnatural sounds, missing people, and even sightings of pale figures near the shore. That night, Samantha dreamed of the lake. In her vision, ghostly hands reached out from the depths, their fingers clawing for help. She woke up gasping, her bedsheets damp as though she'd been submerged in water. Determined to uncover the truth, Samantha rented a small rowboat to explore the lake further. As she rowed toward the center, the air grew colder and the silence intensified. The water turned darker, as if the depths were absorbing all light. Halfway across, her boat stopped abruptly, as if caught on something. When she peered over the edge, she saw faces staring up at her, pale, distorted visages just beneath the surface. She screamed and tried to row back, but the boat wouldn't move. The whispers grew louder, forming words. "Join us." Henry found her hours later, unconscious on the shore. She babbled incoherently about the faces and the voices, but he dismissed it as shock. Yet, he couldn't ignore the strange mark on her wrist, a bruise in the shape of a handprint. Samantha dug deeper into the town's history. She uncovered an old newspaper article about a mining accident in the 1940s. The miners had been trapped underground when the tunnels flooded. Their screams were said to echo through the lake for days. The more she investigated, the more erratic her behavior became. She started hearing the whispers even in her apartment and seeing wet footprints leading from her bathroom to her bed. Henry, noticing her descent into madness, tried to intervene, but Samantha refused to leave the town. Her recorder began picking up unsettling sounds. Faint cries, dripping water, and once, a voice that clearly said, "Come back." One night, Samantha disappeared. Henry found her car abandoned near the lake. Frantic, he gathered a group of locals to search for her, but all they found were her shoes on the shore. Samantha awoke in a cavern beneath the lake, surrounded by the spirits of the drowned miners. They were not malevolent but desperate, trapped in a purgatorial state. They revealed that the lake had become a prison for lost souls, its silence a curse placed by something older and darker than humanity. The spirits pleaded with Samantha to help them break free. To do so, she would have to confront the entity binding them and risk her own life in the process. Guided by the miners, Samantha descended into the heart of the lake's curse, a massive, pulsating black void at the cavern's center. The whispers grew deafening as the entity revealed itself, a formless, ancient being that fed on despair and fear. Armed with an old relic given to her by Henry, a piece of obsidian said to be from the original mining site, Samantha faced the entity. She chanted the words engraved on the relic, a ritual to sever the curse. The entity resisted, flooding her mind with horrific visions of her past and future. It tried to lure her into the void, promising to reunite her with her deceased mother. Samantha nearly succumbed, but the miners' voices encouraged her to stand firm. With one final push, she completed the ritual, shattering the entity's hold on the lake. The lake's silence was broken at dawn. Birds sang, and the water rippled with life for the first time in decades. Samantha washed ashore, alive but forever changed. She bore scars, both physical and mental, that would never fade. Henry and the townsfolk welcomed her back as a hero, but Samantha refused to stay in Blackwood. The experience had drained oversleeping 2 hours. He was on my way to school, thinking of how sleepy I felt, how crappy this new school would probably be, and how dumb I was for forgetting to eat breakfast. I was usually hungry in the morning. If I didn't eat, I would get cranky until I did it. IT didn't come as a surprise when I pee. Got lost a few times on the way. I checked my phone to see it was already 9 in the morning by the time I slipped into the school's parking lot. The teachers would definitely love me for being an hour late. The first day of school, I sarcastically thought to myself. I was walking as fast as I could toward the main building when my messenger bag started giving me trouble. I tried adjusting it to my side since I was too distracted with my bag. I only looked up in time to see a guy running past me, trying to get inside the door. As he passed me, his shoulder shoved me away. I wasn't expecting him to be so strong or his push to carry so much force. I only felt as I fell on my butt down to the ground. It took me a while to zone in on what had happened. The guy stopped on his tracks and looked down at me as I tried to sit up from the awkward position I was in. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, kneeling down in front of me. He was looking at me with a concerned expression, trying to check if I was hurt. I hadn't really paid attention to him, but when I noticed his appearance, I was slightly stunned. He had clean features with blonde, hype brown eyes. It was obvious he was built. His muscles stood out from his blue polo shirt. Overall, he was something nice to look at. After a few moments of gawking at him, I felt stupid for checking him while he was looking at me. Worriedly, "I'm fine," I answered softly, dusting myself off. "Here, let me help you." He offered his hand and I took it, trying to put most of the weight on myself. "I'm Jared, by the way," he told me, still holding my hand even though I was already on my feet. "Cassidy, I renly trying to open an app, remove my his. Grip was strong, but it didn't bother me as much as it should. I probably should have introduced myself before knocking you down, he said. I couldn't help but chuckle at his words. It probably would have been better not getting knocked down at all. I was expecting an unlucky day. Anyways, don't worry, you just proved me right. I headed into the main building. Just before reaching the door, Jared opened it and gestured for me to go. Ladies first, he said while opening app, flashing me on Indy walking in after me. Thank you. I guess chivalry isn't dead. If I forget the last minutes, when you knocked me down, I am really sorry about that. He apologized with a sheepish grin. So you're expecting bad luck today? So far, I've been proven right about that. Maybe I can make your day better, Jared said, smirking at me as we walked by classrooms full of students. I honestly had no idea where we were going. I was walking, open an app, aimlessly trying UTMD any sign of the office. My parents had called about M&E coming in today, but I hadn't really been there before. I'm sure you can. If you keep it up, I might end up with a black eye and a few broken bones by the end of the day. You have so little faith in me, he said, holding a hand to his heart and giving me a playful sad look. I laughed at him and shook my head. He was charming. I couldn't argue with that. Are you new? Jared asked. He was walking by my side with his hands in his pockets, looking at me every so often. Open an app. Is it obvious? I questioned that. I took out my phone to see it was 9:30. I'd arrived at school half hour ago, but I couldn't explain where that time had gone. I wouldn't say it was obvious, but if you were a student here, I would know. There is no way I would have missed you, Jared said, giving me a cocky grin. I gave into a smile but couldn't help rolling my eyes at his flirting. After pointlessly walking around for 5 minutes, I finally reached the office. This is my stop, I told him, stopping outside the glass windows that were next to the office. You're getting your schedule? I'm actually enrolling. So, Illinois. Probably be a while. That's cool. Maybe I'll see you at lunch. I nodded and waved at him as I entered the office. He stayed outside the windows for a little while before making his way to whatever class he was going to. It took another half hour to register and finally get my schedule with a handbook and a map of the school. I heard the bell go off while I was in the office with the principal. He didn't scowl at me for being so late. Instead, he was praising me for my good grades, which apparently is what all students should strive for. I left the office at 10:10. Everyone was already in third period. I had art during that hour, which was a relief. While I didn't doubt myself with core classes such as math or science, it was nice to have an easygoing course before taking on the main classes. As I made my way to my classroom, I started feeling anxious. It was late September, and I was starting my sophomore year in a new school, far away from what I used to consider home. Last week, during my birthday party, my parents announced that since I was turning 16, it was time to move old Priestmore